From the back roads and courthouse steps of small-town South Carolina to the late-night studio where the mics never sleep, this is where decisions, rumors, and real stories collide. You're tuned in to the Pot Stirrer Podcast with Jazzy Jeff. Real talk, local issues, no fluff.
Parker is joining us. Mike, welcome aboard here on this Sunday evening.
Thank you, Jeff.
Well, we're glad to have you with us. And again, this show tonight, we want to deal in facts tonight. And we have basically this show is going to become a two-part show. Tonight, we're going to get through as much as we can, and then we're going to come back tomorrow night and continue to talk a little bit more about, of course, Sanctuary Point. The topic of discussion tonight is the development that is forthcoming, or we don't know what's going to happen. As Mike and I were talking before we got started, it seems like this project now has changed, I don't know, 3,000 different times here in just the last 2 weeks. But again, the big news is coming up on Tuesday at City Council meeting is allegedly the first reading or vote for this project. And Mike, we want to go ahead and bring you in. Mike, you have done a lot of work behind the scenes here in just the last 2 weeks on this project.
Yeah, I trying to wrap my head around what's being proposed and trying to figure out the angles for everything. And so, as you said, we want to deal in facts. So, everything that I'm going to try to say tonight and tomorrow night, if that's where we go, is going to be based upon the published written word of the developer and the city, and a little bit of the developer's testimony and some comments by the planning commission at the planning commission meeting back on March 16th. So I'm trying to stay with what we know written and what we know orally, not he said, she said, not I heard, but what we can actually.
Well, the couple of things too in all of this information that we want to clarify. There has been talk about a marina that was in this original documentation. That was clearly laid out in there, and we're going to get to that a little bit later on. A lot of the questions that folks are having on this project is this traffic study, and we actually have a copy of this traffic study. Originally, the traffic study was conducted in 2019 by an engineering firm, which would be a third-party firm. And again, these are some of the questions that we're going to get to, and along the way, if you have a specific question, you can feel free to ask us here on the show itself and under the comments. Or if you have a specific question that we can answer, you can also email me. Let me give you the email address. It is jazzyjeff@potstir.com. jazzyjeff@potstir.com. But tonight we're going to take the first part of this. We're going to break it down. We actually have some audio clips tonight for you to listen to. That is from Scott Mulder and Ronnie O'Kelly. They were on a local talk show called a City Talk. And we're going to share that with you coming up here in just a few moments. Now, Mike, we've got our first page up on the screen, and let me explain what this is. And if you folks can't see, I think you should be able to see on screen. But our first comment, or the first thing that we're going to get into tonight, is the actual original. This is the application that was filed with the City of Seneca and the planning that was dated March 19th, 2026. And then the first. This is what went through the Planning Commission.
That's correct. That was what was posted on the Planning Commission's portion of the website for the city as the agenda for that March 16th meeting.
Of course, and it calls for Phase 1 in the new change. They want to change it from the residential to PDR-R, which is planned development. They want to change it into the planned mixed use.
Mixed use
is what they're trying to change it into. And the Phase 1 was included to construct a 175-unit condominium with a restaurant and associate open space that was being proposed with the development. Now, I want to throw something of key here. We talk about hotel condominiums, Okay. But in other things that we have heard and we've seen, and we will talk a little bit about that tonight, is this a hotel or is it going to be condominiums? Because again, we're going to point these facts out as we go along tonight, that there's been some talk about the two different entities here.
Yeah, it's a moving target, and that's what I've tried to point out here, that as we go through this. But I think at the heart of the issue that the folks need to remember is it's not we're opposed to a hotel, condo, restaurant. We're opposing the rezoning that leads to that development, and in large part, it should the zoning pass, and the developer plans fall through or whatever. Who knows what the next development could be, and there's not a lot that we, the public, can say at that point because the zoning change will have happened.
Well, go back a little bit in time. This property has come up under, there's been another issue with this property too. Back several years ago, this property, of course, was designed for the residential, and there had been a plan already to put, I believe it was patio homes.
I believe that's correct.
But then the developer walked away from it and said, quote, there was not enough ROI, which is return on the investment. So we've already had the issue where one previous developer that was trying to build what it's actually zoned for right now, because it is zoned for 232 homes as it stands.
That's right.
So we already have a little bit of history with this project. Again, that they went back, they were going to build the homes, and again, the developer said, no, it's not worth it. There's not enough return on the investment. So we've already been down the road with this. Now, again, a couple of things here I'm going to address, and then, Mike, I want you to go ahead and talk about this, is, of course, in the highlighted portion here, in this proposed development, they're talking about 375 parking spaces, which exceeds the minimum requirement of 307. And you put this visual picture in your mind. We're talking about 375 parking spaces for this project. Talk a little bit about that.
So yeah, it'll take me a second to get to that. I guess what I'm wanting to point out tonight is what I believe is the city's lack of due diligence on this project, and the developers, I'm going to call it inexperience, and on this type of project. So, I think the city has been wooed by the developer, and they've become enamored with the project. I think they're blind to ideas of problems that can be created, and I don't think I'm not sure they care, to be honest with you. They've just become so fixated on the resort that they've sort of lost track of everything else that's going on. And at the end of the day, the city is sort of kicking the can down the road or putting it off on somebody else, so that decisions they make impact other people. And when I say other people, DOT, Duke, the county, they're going to make a decision that if they move forward with the development, that they know we already have a traffic problem there, and they're going to make that worse. And they're just like, well, that's the state problem. That's not our problem. So they're making a decision knowing that they're putting off the fix, if you will, to that problem on somebody else. So my tax dollars that go to the state and to the county is going to fix a problem, or in part, that the city's creating. So that's just sort of, I just think that's
we got to look at
poor way to handle governance.
It seems like there's been a lack of due diligence. Is the word that I think I would look at, because again, the talk of all of this started back in November, when Tyler had the conversations with the city of Seneca, and then most of this got pushed forward by end of February for March's first hearing. So we've put all this together, And in the midst of all of this, there has been significant changes in some of the conversations and what we know now to be facts. Yesterday in the Journal, there was an article in there that Tyler Cox conducted with one of the newspaper. I think it was Caleb Gilbert, I believe.
That's right.
That did an article in there, and now some of the aspects have changed. Even when I met with the developer, when I met with Tyler, the first three things that I pointed out was, okay, it talks about a marina. Well, the marina aspect of it has been told, well, that's not going to happen, but yet you still have in there, in this development, that you're going to have attendance at these docks. So that's still including in there. The other contentious thing that I think a lot of folks was dealing with was the idea of about an amphitheater. And again, to find out, well, maybe that's not what it is, according to Tyler himself. Well, it's going to be a pavilion, but yet what we see here shows that it's going to be an amphitheater. That's what this plan is being listed as. And the third thing I think was an issue that the folks you all were having was the access, that the traffic being used in Indian Oaks, there's an access that to come in the back of this property. And now we're finding out that according to what he has said to me and he has said to everything, that that's going to be used just as an emergency access, and that's it. They're not going to use it for commercial things. Mike, there was something else that had changed in this too about the boat storage.
Yeah, it's the only thing that we as the general public, I believe, should be able to evaluate and comment on, either for or against the development, is the written word that is in the agenda and the proposal that is on the city's website, and what was, I'm going to call it, testified to at the public forum for the Planning Commission and what's coming up at the City Council. And because so far, the docks, marina, amphitheater, those are all changing daily. It changed today. There was,
by the way, there was a meeting today held at Port Santorini for the public, and AQD was involved. They conducted this. I'm kind of a little disappointed in what I've heard about that meeting, but I digress a little bit. Again, they were talking about some of the changes again, but that with this project.
Yeah. So the inconsistencies that go throughout the agenda is sort of what I want to focus on, the lack of due diligence on the part of the city. Because whatever he told you, whatever he met with a neighbor of ours, told them, which is a little bit different than what he told you. What he told the paper, the Upstate Today, a little bit different than what he told today at Port Santorini. So it's a moving target. I mean, it's, is it a bait and switch that we're getting ready to see? In my opinion, the city should only be evaluating and voting on the written word that was submitted to them, and whatever comments he made in defense of the project at the Planning Commission meeting and the forthcoming City Council meeting. I'm going to do this. I meant to say that. Well, that's not really going to happen. I'm going to do this. That's you can't take that to the bank.
Again, you're asking, Tyler is asking as the developer, he's asking the city to approve what we're showing you tonight. This is the original application that, number one, the Planning Commission voted on. They approved it. They sent it over to City Council. Now, this is where the next vote comes in on Tuesday night. Again, if there's all of these changes, one would believe, and I would believe, that there should be a new proposal put through.
Yeah.
If you're going to change all these things, instead of telling the people this, then it needs to be in writing, because it's called checks and balances. If I'm on City Council and I'm going to vote for this. I expect this here, what we're seeing, is the way it's going to be built, not a last-minute change. Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
It's called open and honesty in government.
Yeah.
Okay? So, on the screen right now, you're seeing exactly what we're showing right now. This is what has been on file. This is what the Planning Commission voted on, and now this is what's going forth on Tuesday night. They're voting on, and again, it says it right here, pavilion, parking, all of these things are listed here. Yep. It just seems like it needs to be the correct thing. If you're going to change it up midstream, you need it changed.
But it's not written on there.
No,
it's not a pavilion.
No.
It's called an amphitheater.
Amphitheater.
He tells you it's going to be a pavilion, but that's not what his plan shows.
Right.
And that's the kind of inconsistencies that we're seeing with this. So let's get to what I'm calling it sort of the first lack of due diligence, if you will. And it started back with the Planning Commission back on March the 16th. The Planning Commission, in my opinion, failed to thoroughly review these written documents. They failed to hear what the developer was saying when he was talking about 375 parking spaces and was almost proud to say that's more than the city requires of 307. And then the Planning Commission goes, well, the traffic from a 175 room hotel is less than 232 houses would generate. So I think we should move forward and pass this. And so they passed it based on that conversation, that evaluation. They didn't take into account the number of employees that would be at the hotel, condo, restaurant, whatever it's going to be. They didn't take into account the number of people coming into the restaurant. You know as good as I do, if that restaurant doesn't turn its tables at least twice at lunch and twice at dinner, it's not going to last.
Right.
They didn't count the vendors that's got to support the hotel and the restaurant. They didn't take into account the additional 57 residents that's in phase two that brings it up to that same number of 232. And you wouldn't have a restaurant with the 232 homes. You're going to have a restaurant with the 232 condo, hotel, restaurants. So their evaluation of the information that they had was poor at best, and just failed to put the effort into understanding what they were voting on.
But they should have. Again, I can't say, I'm not a planner, but if I was on the Planning Commission, one of the first things that I would ask is what is this going to do to our current infrastructure? That would be one of the first questions that I would want to ask of a project of this caliber is, number one, your infrastructure. I'm talking sewer. How is it going to affect the Oconee Joint Regional Water Sewer Authority? Number two, the power, because the city of Seneca Light and Water will be providing power to this location. Water, I'm not too concerned because I believe we have the water capacity. But then we talk about fire department. Then we talk about police protection. Then we talk about garbage. Those are things that in this equation, all of this has never been, so to speak, talked about.
Right.
In any of the planning commissions or any of the things, no one's talking about the added burden to the infrastructure. Yeah. And to me, I'm worried about that.
Yeah, I hear you, and I'm not worried about the water. I'm not worried about the power. I don't know enough about it to say I'm worried or not worried as regards to the sewer, but to put a bow around the Planning Commission's conversation, in addition to all those employee, business-related functions around the hotel and the restaurant, there was 100 boat storage plan for the development too, and that'll generate traffic back and forth to the lake. They aren't buying those boats and let them sit there in storage. So there's just a whole list of things like that are associated with traffic that the Planning Commission merely wanted to go, 175 is less than 232. That's the way we ought to go. They took into account At least it was not obvious in the debate because there was none really among the commissioners as to what that is. And so we get to so that's sort of kind of where that is. The sewer, like I said, I don't really have an opinion about that. I know the city says that the developer will have to provide any new upgrade, repair, maintenance, extension, electrical service. That's pretty common. They talk about the developer is going to build the roads and they will own the roads. Either the developer or the HOA will own the roads, but they never talk about the utilities. They don't talk about the water and the sewer. Who owns that? And so I don't, who's making that repair in the middle of the night when a water main breaks? Who's responsible for that lift station should it fail? Emergency generator maintenance to keep that emergency generator going in the event of a power outage. They don't talk about that, but those are real things. And who's on the hook for that?
Okay. We're moving along here on our program. I'll welcome you in this evening here at this Sunday evening. We're in our next here on our slide here on slide number 3 about the guiding principles here. We're getting to the economic impact. And then again, we've got a couple of things that we're going to let you hear coming up shortly about some of this economic impact. These are some of the things that the developer has put forth as, like, for example, intends to implement transit from the property.
More traffic not taken into account.
Exactly. I mean, again, you're talking about all of this. The hotel, of course, according to the plans to reduce the impact on land otherwise created by single-family subdivisions, but still delivers the increase in tax base. I want you to remember that comment right there, because we're going to come back to the increase in tax base in just a little bit later on here. If we don't get to it tonight, we will get to it tomorrow. The developer, let's talk about this traffic. I alluded to the traffic study earlier. The developer has completed a traffic independent or impact analysis incorporating current traffic counts based on historical data and current traffic volumes. And the South Carolina Department of Transportation is expected to require the installation of a right turn lane on South Cove Road at the development's main entrance. Mike, I'm going to let you take that.
Okay, so there's a mixture of terms being thrown about in there. You talk about a traffic study, you talk about traffic counts. Well, those are very different things. There was a legitimate 2019 traffic study done with I think this would have been the patio home scenario.
I have it up on the screen now.
I think it was 278 homes in that original traffic study back in 2019. And I've looked through that, and I take no exception with anything that the guy has come up with in that. Where I take a little bit of exception is in this updated traffic count. It was done in January 2026, and to have done a traffic study in the middle of the winter when one of the primary roads you're studying dead ends at South Cove County Park, which is centers around outdoor recreational activities, boating, camping, picnicking, and try to weave that into there's been no significant increase in traffic is a joke. And in fact, one of the slides that's on there, Jeff, is a visitor count from South Cove. PRTM, Parks, Recreation, and Tourism here in Oconee County, they don't do vehicle counts. They don't have a method in place to do vehicle counts, but they have a formula that they have been using for many years that they use to calculate the number of visitors. And so they do a visitor count. And if you can look and see that number from 2020 to 2025, it's not even back to 2019.
Goodness gracious.
So to say that it's just disingenuous to say that there's been no increase. And I'll have to confess, I believe the traffic engineer is fully aware of that was not a legitimate way to have handled that.
So we go in for fiscal year 2020, which was COVID.
That's right.
That was 116,849 vehicles, and the park was closed.
No, that's not vehicles.
What is this estimated number of visitors?
That's the visitors.
Okay.
So they've got an equation somewhere along the way that figures there's 3.2 or 1.8 or whatever that number is per vehicle. Somehow, because boaters, almost always fishermen are traveling in pairs, and so they've got an equation, a formula that they use.
But still, that's a huge increase.
But it's still a huge increase.
That's a huge increase now to 2025, up to 226,000. Again, we're talking about a park, but back in 2020, you got to take into account the park was closed for about 2 or 3 months because of COVID.
Yeah, it's almost 110 visitors, 110,000 visitors increase.
Well, also, too, we have another couple of things happening along South Cove Road. There is other property that could be potentially developed into another residential subdivisions along South Cove Road.
And I've heard rumors of that.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that I have a problem with that, other than as long as somebody addresses the intersection at
South Cove Road and Kiwi School Road.
And ultimately over at Kiwi School and 28. But, I don't want to talk too bad about DOT because everybody does. But at the end of the day, DOT is not very proactive. They're reactionary. So if they started today, 3 years from now, maybe there would be a significant improvement in the traffic flow. But how long do you have to live with it before it's addressed?
We're facing another issue right now, and this is kind of getting off topic, but there's a new issue happening in downtown Seneca with lane changing on West North First Street. There was a meeting with the DOT Thursday night in City Council chambers that the plan has gone forth that we're going to be getting rid of the 4 lanes, and we would be going down to 2 lanes with a median for turning. One or the other, again, traffic probably having a turning lane would probably make a little bit more sense. But we've been down this road before because that's the original way it was back in the 50s and 60s. It was 2 lanes and then you had parking. So we've kind of been down this road before, but there's something that needs to be done down at the intersection of 130 and 123. That's a disaster just waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And that's because, again, why? We've increased our people here. And again, this goes back to infrastructure. It goes back to the roads and stuff. Go ahead, Mike.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, my wife and I went to the meeting with DOT to talk about that North First Street change last week. And, if it matters to anybody, I think that's a good thing at the end of the day for that. But
let me bring up a comment real quick. Phyllis Neal checks in on our social media. Good evening, Phyllis, and thanks for joining us. The mayor and city administrator have both stated that the current plan of 235 homes will generate $400,000 annually for the city of Seneca. The hotel condo proposal will generate less than $220,000 annually for the city. How can the city council vote for this and the mayor back this? Give us a little bit of time. Yeah. We're going to address that coming up. I hope we get to it tonight. Yeah. We're going to address that because there is something in this equation that they didn't put forth yet, and we'll talk about that. Our next slide that I have up on the screen, Mike, is going to be about the Seneca Light and Water, about who's going to call what if there's an issue, and this was taken down at the lodge.
Yeah, so I was down in Clemson the other day, and I was thinking about this project and specifically the utilities and who owns them and who takes care of them, and post construction, and it dawned on me that the Lakeside Lodge Hartwell Village development is a city of Seneca utility development, mm-hmm. And so I'm like, well, heck, I'm just going to drive around and see what I see in the way of a lift station. And because obviously from the topography of where that sits down there next to the lake, it's got to have a lift station to accommodate the sewer. And so lo and behold, right there beside the Lakeside Lodge was the emergency generator and the lift station. And I think it answered my question as to who was the responsible party, because you can see the sign right there telling you who to call in the event of emergency. Seneca
And
Light and Water.
I think it would be this situation. Yeah, they're going to pay for all of this work to be done, but at the end of the day, it's going to be up to Seneca Light and Water to maintain.
Yeah.
They'll have to maintain this pump station, anything else that comes in there, that the city would be responsible for that.
Right.
So yeah, I see exactly.
And I don't know that, this sanctuary cove will be the exact same scenario as Lakeside Lodge as far as who owns what, but do the taxpayers for the city understand they're going to be responsible for that? Their tax dollars will be responsible for that.
Well, let's go ahead and jump in. It's 7:30 here on this Sunday evening. You're listening to the Pod Stirrer podcast. Jazzy Jeff along with Michael Parker tonight as we break down information, and we want to give you what we have. And this has been a collective effort of everything that Mike has worked hard on in the last 2 weeks. And again, Mike, I want to say to you, you have a lot riding on this, but yet you don't have any say in it because you're not in the city of Seneca.
That's correct.
I am. I have a lot riding on this, and I believe talking with so many other city residents that, again, they feel the same way I do. And again, if we listen, all you got to do is listen to the amount of people say, wait a minute, we've had enough of this. We've got to put the brakes and slow this thing down until one side of this can catch up. Because it is true that we have a road problem in this county. In this state, we have road problems. Yep. We've got bridges falling in. It seems like every day we got bridges completely falling in. And this is added things that you're wanting to put on top of this without having a surefire plan of protecting and going forward with the infrastructure. Mike, our first up is a clip number 1. This is aired on City Talk. It's a local radio program that airs on another radio station, 94.1. The city does this on Wednesdays, and they re-air it on Saturday mornings. And go ahead and set up clip number 1 for us.
Yeah, so this is, if I recall, this is where they're talking about the utilities and how the developer will be installing that and extending it. And my question is, who's responsible for maintaining it? We sort of see, based on the photo, that the city of Seneca is, at least it appears, that they're responsible for the lift station and generator at Lakeside Lodge. And is this one the same way?
Impact, and all the utilities are there, and the ruling that we made as a city a number of years ago was any utility expansions or upgrades that were necessary and any internal utilities that were necessary for any development, the cost has to be borne by the developer.
Yeah.
So there is no cost to us.
All right, no cost to us. I heard it. I mean, I heard the words, no cost to us.
Yeah, I don't, I know, at what point does it stop being the cost of the developer HOA and start being the city? Is it a once it's substantially complete and DHEC has approved it to become operational, or is it the property line when it crosses the property line? I don't know, but it's just a question. They talk about the roads, they talk about the electrical, but they didn't address the water and the sewer. And the sewer is sort of a big thing. If you can pull up one of the clips, the site plan, that one right there.
I think it's it right here that shows about in the bottom corner here that has the pump station.
Yeah. So we, if you go through this agenda with the proposal, both from the city and from the developer, there's a lot of talk about being environmentally conscious, and we're leaving all these buffers in place, and we're not taking down trees and around here and there. And then if you look, they put the lift station, pushed it right up next to the 25-foot buffer at the edge of the edge of the lake. Those lift stations fail.
And you know what happens, don't you? Brown trout.
Yeah, you get some overflow into the surrounding area that may or may not make its way to the lake.
Yeah.
But fortunately, it doesn't happen often. There's safeties that are associated with it, but it does happen. And is the city prepared to own that, or is that still the sanctuary code? We just don't know. I'm asking a question.
I would honestly think, just knowing what I know, I would honestly think that, yeah, they would pay for the pipes, they would pay to have this lift station pumped in, but the maintenance would be done by the city.
That's
Kind of like same thing that La Lodge and all the other pump stations within the city that they're responsible to maintain. I would think that that would be the case. But then again, too, this whole design of this is not the official design of where this may go. This may all change. It's just this. This is just basically a map that says, okay, I may want to put this here, but then again, I may move it.
Yeah.
Because according to Tyler, this is another big thing that I have with this project, is that number one, there's been no soil testing yet. You got to do soil testing before you can start any kind of construction, particularly with you're basing this on a hotel or condominium or whatever this project's going to be. You've not done any of that. To my knowledge, you've not asked, can their capacity be held at the Oconee Joint Regional Sewer Water? You have to fill out paperwork. Two, this property is not in his name. It is not in the developer's name. That's not supposed to happen until sometime in June.
He was asked that question today at Port Santorini if he owns the property, and he said no, they're closing on it in June.
So my big deal is, okay, we're going to go ahead and approve all of this, but yet the property and all of this isn't in his name, and so how further we're going to go with all of this?
Yeah.
Again, these are questions that need to be answered, and I'm not sure that we're ever going to, but logistically, before I would vote on anything, I would have done homework. That's the key. I would have done homework. I would have asked these questions. And again, if a developer in future reference wanted to come before and do a project such as this, that developer needs to have his own public hearing, and it needs to be away from the city. The developer needs to meet one-on-one with the people.
Yeah.
And in a controlled setting so that the citizens have an opportunity, because you can't ask things in 15 minutes and 15 minutes, and that's it.
Yeah. I think there's been a lack of due diligence on the part of the city, and there's multiple places where I could point to that. But I think what's being exposed, quite frankly, is the inexperience of the developer, and everybody's got to have their first job. I get it, but you go to a Furman company website, you go to a Hughes commercial property website, and you go to the Meet the Team app, and you see multiple people with years and years of experience on their teams, and you look at their portfolio of previous projects, and it's pretty impressive. And you go to Tyler's, and it's Meet the Team, and it's him. There is no portfolio of projects. There's 3 bar graphs on there that says 60%, 40%, 20%, something like that, of residential, industrial, but it doesn't tell you what they are. And then that bar graph, there's nothing that tells you that's, well, I got 60% of the way through a project, or it doesn't. There's no description as to what that bar graph is.
I urge people just go do a search of Tyler Cox.
Yep, understood.
I do. I urge people just for yourself, to see for yourself, do a search of Tyler Cox and on the internet and see what comes up.
But yeah, and I just think a lot of his, I'm going to call it inexperience, shows up in this proposal that, quite frankly, a 10th grader could have done it. And I don't mean that to be, well, I guess it is demeaning to Tyler, but I don't mean it to be, because he seemed like a nice enough guy. But I just think his inexperience shows through on every page that you turn through this thing. And is the city council prepared to stake their reputation on this guy, on this project? I just don't know that you want this to be your first project out of the gate, that City of Seneca is going to buy into that. And I think Scott Mulder used the $18 million mark figure for the hotel condo. Where did that number come from? It's not in the proposal. I would have expected that a developer would have advertised that. I'm spending $18 million in your county. I'm spending $20 million. I'm spending $8 million, whatever that number is. You think that would be a number that he would be using to sell the project.
But it hasn't.
But it's not there.
It's not there.
And I sort of think that's part of his inexperience too, that just some of that crucial information is lacking.
All right, let's go ahead, and this is where it's very important to pay attention, because this is going to talk a little bit about in clip number 2, the city talk. There's another clip in here, and again, pay very close attention for this clip here, and then we'll come back and explain what this clip right here means.
Well, a lot of people think, oh, you just want the money. You just want the money. Well, do a comparison, okay? So let's say we do let 230 houses get built there at an average price of probably around $550,000 with the location on the lake. Yeah. If you take, 230 times 550,000, right, times, let's say they're all residential at 4% times 0.0697, that's $400,000 worth a year in revenue that we would get just from the houses, plus the garbage fee that we would get, plus the water and sewer and revenue, plus the vehicles. You think if you have 2 cars per property, at let's do the math. 2 cars per property times 230 times even an average price of $18,000 times 6% times 0.0697, that's only 35 grand. So you're talking about a little over $400,000 worth of tax revenue. Right. Now the hotel, let's say the build out cost of that hotel is $18 million at 6% times 697. That's only $75,000 in tax revenue that we would get from the hotel versus well over $400,000 that we would get from a neighborhood.
So I don't.
Okay. Did I just hear this correctly? And let's make sure that everybody listening and watching heard this same thing. We could get more tax revenue out of homes than we can out of this project. But there's something else that hasn't been added into the hotel project.
Yeah, so you didn't hear him talk about the hospitality tax. You didn't hear him talk about accommodation tax.
Correct.
And, to be fair to Scott, unless he knows something that I don't, and I'm sure he does, how do you even figure that? Without knowing the number of seats in the restaurant,
you're going to have to know your capacity.
Hours of operation.
Right.
Yeah. So if you add in the accommodation tax, if you add in the hospitality tax, then you add in the 57 additional residences that's coming in phase 2. I think pretty soon you get up to, if not exceeding, what the 232 homes were. That's just me. And so, if I'm the city administrator and, maybe there is a hint of ambiance and such as that, the glamour of having a hotel here. But unless the city's flush with cash, why wouldn't you take the option that gives you the most money?
I would take the 232 homes, let them roll it out, put landscape and make it look beautiful and attractive, because then it would the aesthetics would be going along with what's in the neighborhood already.
Yep.
You already have your subdivision, Indian Oaks, you have Port Center already, you have South Oak, you have before you get to South Cove, that subdivision, which is one
South
of
Oak Point.
the one further on down.
I know.
That one's been here for years.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it has a name. But
I don't know if it has a name or not, but in this particular area, why wouldn't you keep it the residential? Because at the end of the day, at the very end, you got a park. You have a county park that accommodates a lot of people coming in and coming out. So to me, the flow, this is just not the area for commercial development. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I just don't see. There's other places if you wanted to put a hotel.
Yeah.
But again, I what do I know? I just was born and raised here and have followed Seneca and Oconee County all my life, and I know that we have a problem that no one seems to want to address. We're full. We're completely full, and we're thinking about we're going to pack all this in here.
Yeah. You're talking about full. You listen to the national news, and South Carolina appears to be a destination that people are moving to, and they certainly have found Oconee County. You would think if we're wanting to encourage growth, maybe the housing would be the way to do it and provide a place for those folks to move into when they get here.
Mike, I want to share something today that I run across here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. There was a video. This lady is called Good Yankee, and I got to share. I got to share this for folks to be able to see it because it's just absolutely hilarious what you're about to see. And Mike, I want you to listen to this because when you hear it, you're going to immediately recognize how we feel around here about all these developments. Let's give this a listen real quick.
Oh, do you see it? Can you see it? Come with me on my way home from Easter. Oh, do you see it? Can you see it? Come with me on my way home from Easter shopping to see one of the most out-of-place homes in my small rural town. It is so glaringly obvious that it doesn't belong. Let's see if you can find out. I have to drive past this monstrosity every time I'm in this creepy town called Easley. It is one of the worst hit towns in my small rural area, in the upstate of South Carolina. They overdeveloped Easley so bad after COVID, it is not even recognizable to the pre-COVID version of itself. It was a nice, one main street cute town, and now it is just... They call it like octopus arms because of how much they keep annexing parts of the area into the city so that these developments can get city utilities and city benefits. They've overdeveloped the area so much. You never used to have traffic, now you have traffic all the time. Feel like I'm back in Baltimore driving. Nice ranchers. Huh, what's that? What was that? Would you get a look at that? What was that? I don't know.
So what do you think about that there, Mike?
That's
Something's wrong with you. I'm telling you.
interesting.
But it's true.
Yeah.
It is absolutely true. That came from the Good Yankee, by the way.
Yeah. Seems a bit out of place.
It seems a bit out of place.
Yeah.
And it fit real tonight of what we're trying to say that, again, this thing fits out it's like a, I don't know the best words to describe it. What I want to say, I can't say.
Yeah.
But it stands out.
Yeah. Let's
Okay.
get back to the tax thing just a little bit, if you don't mind. So this is, it is clear that the developer thinks this is a tax revenue generator for the city. This is his proposals. He references it there. It's so small I can't see it, but maybe
Let me blow it up.
You can blow it up.
I can
and
blow
read
it up for you.
But
How about that there, Mike?
oh gosh, anyway. It's a substantial accommodation and sales tax revenue. That's the developer's take on it. If you clip to the next one,
Okay. There we go.
page 12. Basically the same thing.
It says the proposed use will create new and a substantial accommodation tax revenue for the city of Seneca.
Yeah. And flip to the next one.
All right. Sanctuary Cove will impact the city of Seneca through job creation, recreation, tourism, and accommodation tax revenue.
Yeah. And then the next one, hot off the press from Upstate today.
Let me turn it around here so folks can see it real quick. There we go. I think this is the best fit for the city from tax revenue it generates. Well, there you go.
That was yesterday.
There you go.
So it's clear the developer believes that the hotel is the tax revenue source of choice over the houses. So
There's a lot.
So
here-
somebody's got to decide if it's a money grab or not. I'm just telling you what it says.
And these are the own words.
That's right.
We're using the words right here. What you're seeing is the words that come straight. This is like I said, I met with Tyler. I find him to be a very nice guy. But then again, there's a lot of questions that I had that still have not got answered. Number one, who's your backer?
Yeah.
I think if you're going to do a project and you're asking the city of Seneca and the residents to allow you to change this to do a commercial, I think you need to be transparent and say, okay, here is who is funding me.
Yeah.
It's just a part of being transparent.
Yeah. Again, I think that's a little bit of his inexperience, but at the same time, maybe he's protecting his financiers. I don't know.
I don't know
how all that works.
But I
to
would
be
think
honest
if
with
you're wanting a vote to be able to go forward with this, then you need to be transparent and open about this.
And if the city knows the dollar value for the hotel, the development, they know the restaurant count, maybe they should be a little more forthcoming with that information too. I mean, who knows? Maybe they're absolutely right. There is more money to be generated by the houses.
Is this a hotel or is it going to be condos?
Well, all I can tell you is today at Port Santorini, the goal is to sell it all as a condo.
And then they're going to turn around and resell it just as they're doing down at the Lodge in Clemson.
That's correct. Yeah, just FYI, I haven't checked this week, but last week there was a 2-bedroom unit at Lakeside Lodge for sale for $580,000, and it's been on the market for over 200 days.
We have a problem right now with the market in general is taking a turn because look how bad things are right now.
So has there been a market study that says that Seneca of all places can support a hotel condo of that size? I don't know.
That's a good point, Mike. I don't think if no one has shared that information if there has been one.
Yeah,
I mean, I do know that in certain areas they do market analysis. And the market analysis will point you and say, okay, well, if you build this is how much you're going to get. And again, is their long-term plan for this? Do they think they're going to get the holdovers from Clemson football? Again, that's a potential possibility. But right now, everything else before you would get this far out is already backed up in full.
Yeah.
You've already got the Lodge. You've got James F. Martin Inn. You've got Kiwi Key right up the road, right below the road from us here.
Yeah.
They already got their condos and stuff rented out and stuff.
Yeah. He was asked today by some of the residents there at Port Santorini, what's the value of these condos, how much they're going to sell for, and he said the low end was going to be about $600,000, and the high end was going to be $800,000. So, I just don't know what the market is for that. If the one in Clemson, well, it's in Oconee County, but it's for Clemson.
Okay, but here's the deal.
It's been for sale for over 200 days.
Okay.
I don't know what the market is today for a house to be on the market. I just don't know
But here's the deal.
For it.
You're talking about a different area versus an area that is full of residential area.
That is correct.
There's a huge difference. Clemson Lodge is inside a commercial development already.
That's right.
That's how it was planned. It has easy access. Well, we call it easy access, but we know that grew up here, it's getting tough to get through Clemson. Yeah. And unfortunately, Clemson is having their own problems. Yeah. The folks in Clemson are facing exactly now, or have already faced it with what we're starting to face. And if we don't draw a line in the sand and start challenging our elected representatives to represent us and stop this overdevelopment, it is just a matter of time, Mike, before we wind up that we stand in downtown Seneca or look around and there's going to be high-rise story condos and hotels, and we're going to be something that we don't recognize. Even in the city's comprehensive plan, back in 2022, it was asked what residents, they were asked, what is the most important thing to you in that residential plan? And you know what was in there, Mike?
No, I don't have a clue.
Hometown small feel.
Yeah, I can believe that.
That was in there. And it seems like we have grown so far away. And when citizens say that this is what they're wanting, we just turn the blind eye and say, well, not really. We're going to go in this direction. There's tons of things in that comprehensive plan. Some of them have happened. Yeah. Some of them we've got. But that was one of the big things in there was concerning that small town feel.
Yeah, one of the things that was in that agenda from March 16th
was the commercial corridor thing.
The Seneca Comprehensive Plan, and it shows a commercial corridor going not just down 28, but Kiwi School Road. That seems odd.
Well,
that's a commercial corridor.
Again, in October of last year, you had the city administrator go before the school board and ask the school board for them to allow to annex the old Hamilton Career Center, which is now called the Bountyland Educational Center, annex it in the city.
Yeah, I know they've pursued Collins Family Ministries back there too. He's formerly known Collins Children's Home.
Collins Children's Home.
Yeah, I know they've approached them as well.
So again, there's what's bigger? Something bigger's going on, and on top of that, and this is going to be for another show that we'll talk about more in depth here in the coming weeks of our show. I take an interest in now finding out in talking with some of your neighbors around you that have asked for water service. I have an issue with this, that they're having to write an affidavit agreeing to potential future annexation. That sounds like extortion to me. If you're having to make people sign an affidavit to provide them a water service, and then you're forcing their hand to tell them, oh, if we decide to annex you, there's not a thing you can do about it, I have a problem with that. Yeah. And I think that there's got to be some issues here. We need to start having conversations. And if our elected officials don't listen to the community and do what is right, then you have the power of your vote. And that's the way it boils down to. Okay, well, we're coming up to the end here, and we got a great break in place here. Mike, again, a good job. I know you were nervous, but you did a fantastic job, Mike. You really did.
About all that.
Oh, you did. You're gonna be a podcast superstar just before you know it.
Yeah, I will not. I'll never be an influencer.
Give you a little microphone and a little tape and walk around and talk to people. Yeah, that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Listen, we're going to join back up tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock here. Again, we'll finish up the conversation. We want to hear from you all that are watching. If you've got questions that you want to have asked, we will do our best to answer them because, again, D-Day is coming up Tuesday night, 6 o'clock in downtown Seneca at City Hall. And I suspect that there is going to be a rather large crowd, and probably it'll be standing room only again. But again, these are questions that we're trying to get answered. These are the things that we see them. In the end, what we've told you tonight are facts. We haven't embellished anything. This is on paper. This is stuff that can be shown. If you don't believe what we say, we can send you copies of this, that this is the facts of what we have. We have a development that kind of has changed a bit from the original proposal, and that's what we're kind of concerned about, is that you're changing things, but yet it's not on paper that you're going to do these things.
Yeah, it's I think about a business license.
Yeah.
So if I went into City Hall and I applied for a business license that I was going to build a coffee shop or turn a storefront into a coffee shop, and I get my business license, and 2 months later, 6 months later, I'm ready to open my doors, and I open a vape shop. The city is not going to appreciate that.
No.
Probably to the point they shut me down. And here we're doing exactly that right now. The developer is telling you, if you read page 11, the very last paragraph on page 11 of his proposal, he writes a significant 3-inch, 4-inch long paragraph of, we may change.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
depending upon market conditions and this and
yes,
that. And
I know.
he's got all these.
And
so the city is buying something, they don't know what they're buying.
Well, could be buying another Dollar General on the lake. We don't have one of those around here yet. There's a first time for everything, Mike.
I'm thinking of Tom Bodette.
We'll leave the light on for you.
Yeah. So,
all right. Well, we hope everybody has a good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight on the podcast Podstirrer here. And you can go back now, as once we end, you can watch this video, share with all your friends. It's available on YouTube and social media via Facebook. The website is jazzyjeffpodstirrer.com, jazzyjeffpodstirrer.com. And tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, we'll be back on here. Mike will be joining me back in studio. And we will, again, put more spin on this and show you exactly what's going on. And, again, we'll take your calls and comments tomorrow night. Hope everybody has a great evening, and see you tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock here on the Professional Podstirrer Podcast with Jazzy Jeff. I have to thank Ronnie O'Kelly for that, because without Ronnie, none of this would be possible. We love you, Ronnie.
From the back roads and courthouse steps of small-town South Carolina to the late-night studio where the mics never sleep, this is where decisions, rumors, and real stories collide. You're tuned in to the Pot Stirrer Podcast with Jazzy Jeff. Real talk, local issues, no fluff.